Hi everyone, welcome back to this video on overlapping subnets for site-to-site VPN. Now what we did in the previous video was that we from the /16 subnet we took out the /24 and then we added it to this /24 subnet, right? And then we did the same thing here. We took the entire subnet here and we netted it to the 192.168.20.0. It's on the previous video. If you've not watched that, you probably want to go back and check that video out. I'm going to put the link on the description just so you can check out what we did in the first video. But I want to create a kind of a separate scenario here, slightly different, but I mean, it's still the same. So let's say we just need access to one server, right? So this is the LON DC, and what we really just need access to is a single server, right? This could be a company that, you know, they have some applications that we need, right? I don't know what the application could be. So we just want users within this subnet to be able to access this server. We don't want them to access other resources here. It's probably not our network. And we don't want them to also be able to access our network anyway. We want it to be like a one-way direction, right? I mean, that's what NAT gives you. NAT allows you out. But if you are coming back, if you're coming from outside to hit a node on the internal network through NAT, it's not going to work, right? So we need to make a modification and say, oh, we don't actually want to NAT the entire subnet, right? But we just want access to a single server on the New York data center, right? And the IP of the server is 10.10.10.252. So I'm going to pull up my device here. So this is our device. As you can see, the traffic should still be going back and forth between both devices. As you can see, if I ping, we changed the IP to 20.100, which is what this translates to. I think we should just roll back to the previous IP. So I'm going to come here and say ifconfig. This is New York City server. So I'm going to say sudo ifconfig 8.0. So the actual IP is 10.0.10.252, and the net mask is 245.255.250, and sudo route add default gateway should be 10.0.10.254, right? So if that works, so from this LON DC server 1, we should now be able to ping 20.252. Yeah. And if you go to the firewall, show crypto as you come SA, as you can see, the tunnels are up, so it's actually traffic is actually going through the tunnel. A better way to see it is to say show VPN section DB for LAN to LAN. So you see, of course, packets are being encrypted and decrypted, and you can also say show crypto IPsec SA. Situations where you have multiple IPsec SA, which is likely going to be the case, then you can just specify the IP, which in this case is going to be 192.168.1.10. That's the IP for the remote end. So it gives me the session. So our VPN is still up and running. Everything is good, right? So we just need to make some modifications to the NAT, right? So let me make this bigger. I'm going to say show run objects. So this is my object group. We need to create some object group here. So what do we need? So let's say show run NAT. So I'm going to take this out. We don't need this anymore, right? So if I take it out, it's going to break the VPN session. I'm very sure of that. So if you come here, it should stop, right? So what we want to do is we want to say, okay, if it's coming from this network, right? Yes, we still want to NAT it to this IP, but the destination in this case is not the entire subnet that we want to reach, right? It's not the entire subnet that we want to reach. We only want to reach the the 10.0.10.252, right? So what we can do is so I need to create an object group, object network. I'm going to call it 192.168.20. Now we can as well use it, so we can literally use any IP. It depends on what the mapping on the remote side. You know the way static NAT is. So if I'm NATing a public IP to a private IP, so it depends on what your public IP is, right? So it's your public IP that I'm actually trying to hit, and then it gets translated to the internal IP. So it depends on what they use on the end, but since we are the one configuring both sides, we want to stick with the 252/32. So it's just a single IP in this case. So I'm going to say host is be 192.168.20.252. Okay, so we can modify the NAT now and say if it's coming from the internal network and destination is so we are saying if it's coming from this network, NAT it to this IP, right? And then destination is going to be static, but in this case they only align access to a single /32 IP, right? So say don't NAT the destination. Something could be wrong. Let's see. I'm just going to enlarge this so that we can. So destination static. Okay, so there is a mistake somewhere, I hope. Let's see. Yeah, so it should be, let me just copy it again. It's a static, and then we can copy everything here. Yeah. Okay, so what we have done now, so if I come back and say show run NATs, right? It's very long. So what we have done here now is to say, okay, if it's coming from the, so we're saying if it's coming from the LON DC, the /24 subnet, we want to NAT it to this IP, right? And then for the destination should remain unchanged, right? The destination should remain unchanged. Okay, so I think that makes sense. So we need to go to the other end as well and fix the same thing. So here I'm just going to say show run NATs. So we also need to remove this, right? And so we're going to say no IP, right? That takes that out. So let's create an object. I always like to use objects, it makes it cleaner. So the object we want to use is 192.168.20.252, right? So I'm going to say object network 192.168.20.254. 252_32, right? So host is going to be 192.168.20.252, right? So what we need to say here is that we need to create another object, right? Object network, which will be 10.0.10.252, right? _32. The same thing, we say host is going to be 10.0.10.252, right? So let's modify the NAT now. So we're going to come and say if it's coming from the inside network, right, and it matches this host, which is the server, right, we want to NAT it to this IP. Good, right? And destination, I think destination can just be with the entire subnet, which is the 10.0. So we can leave destination the way it is, right? So if it's going to this network, we want to leave it unchanged. Okay, so let's see what is wrong. Probably need to expand. Let's see. Destination static, sorry. So it should be destination static. Okay, yeah. So should run that. So what we're saying now is if it's coming from this single server, we want to NAT it to this IP and the destination is this. So with this, I believe it should work. Okay, it should work. If it doesn't work, we can check why. So let's try to ping again. Exactly. Okay, now what we just succeeded in implementing is that this network can reach the server, right? But it's a one-way flow, right? It's state for how you want to call it, which is your NAT. There has to be a NAT session, right? So if this server comes, the firewall creates a session and it goes out and then hit this box. And so because there's a session, yes, the return traffic is definitely going to allow back in. But if this server on its own try to initiate session to this server, it's going to fail. Let's see, because I mean, that's how NAT works. So if I go to, so from London, I can ping the 252. You might say, Kingsley, how we show you're pinging the 252? What we can do is we can take out the IP. We can change the IP, I mean. So I can say, let's just use the up arrow key and say, let's change the IP to 251, right? And then let's add the gateway. So if you do that, it should break the connection, right? So because it's no longer matching the NAT rule that we created. Now, don't forget that we did not touch the access list, right? The access list still what it is, show run access list. So the access list, we are just still matching the entire subnet from both sides, which is the NATed subnet, right? You don't really need to modify, but you can as well just limit it to the IPs that are of interest, that you like saying, oh, if it's coming from 20.252, which is IP of interest, but you can leave the entire subnet just in case you need to allow more services later. You don't need to modify the access list, right? So so as you can see, it's broken. So if we come back here and roll back to the previous IP, which is the 252, and hit the gateway, now it should be reachable. I think that's so what we, like I said, what we succeeded in implementing now is that yes, from here users can pick his laptop and access this application, right? You go to the application. The application doesn't need to come to you, right? Yeah. So it's just a different type of scenario you might want to implement, because you probably don't want to allow every guy here to access your /24 subnet. You just want, we just want to be able to reach you, but you don't really need to come to us because we are your customer. You don't need to. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's about it. And the second thing we just want to quickly talk about here is I think I prefer to do a different video for that. So thank you for watching. Let me know if you have any question. You can always drop it on the chat, on the comment section on YouTube. And please subscribe, share the video, and I hope if you're having similar problem or you have a similar task to implement, and I hope the video is able to help you to work on that. In the next section, what we need to do is we want to turn up IKV2, right? So you want to see, okay, so you have because currently you see a lot of customers, a lot of companies run IPsec site-to-site VPNs, and they are running on IKV1. And I've had a lot of questions. People say, okay, if I turn on IGV2, is it going to break the VPN connection, right? So that's what I want to demonstrate in the next session. So if you want to see that, I should see you in the next session. Let me put it that way. All right, thank you.